Hey everybody, welcome back to Copilot, a YouTube channel to help organizations orient around what matters most, their customers and their people. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about what human-centered design is and what design thinking is. Sometimes you hear those two terms and they're kind of connected, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what they are, how I apply them, and how you should be thinking about how to apply them in your organization. So with that, my name is Pablo Alejo, and I'm your Copilot. All right, so I'm going to jump right into this. I live and breathe human-centered design and design thinking. It's a part of what I do every day. I lead an entire team of people, and I've been doing this now for about 20 years, creating solutions oriented around people. And so when I get an opportunity to have a conversation with someone about human-centered design and design thinking, I really love to kind of educate and learn at the same time to help get better myself and help other people get better in their own journey. So I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to talk about how I define human-centered design, and I'm going to talk about how I define design thinking, and really then wrap up why should you care. So with that, here's how I would like to begin. Human-centered design to me is an orientation around people, using empathy and seeking understanding of what drives human behavior. Human-centered design is about creating solutions that help people by putting them at the center of what you're trying to achieve and understanding what's happening around them so that you can better create solutions that make or enable what they're trying to achieve. As a simple example, when you try to go to the Apple Store and you walk in and you're able to quickly find what you're looking for, quickly pay for it, and quickly walk out, it's radically different than if you were to go to the DMV to get your license. If you were to compare the two, you would think, yeah, they are worlds apart. Both of them are technically designed to help someone achieve their goal. One company does it way better than the other. When was the last time you ever thought to yourself or had a conversation with someone and they said, whew, man, I need to go to the DMV. I am so excited. It's probably never going to happen. And I recently actually had a DMV experience, and I will tell you, it was pretty rough, but it's something we have to do. So why is it that one organization does so terribly while the other one does extremely well? And it comes down to human-centered design. Is because Apple designs their Apple Store to really facilitate you quickly going in and getting out as fast as possible while having the best experience. I once actually, it took me 2 minutes one time. I walked in to get some AirPods, and I bet I spent a few seconds walking to the counter, grabbing what I wanted, looking at it, knowing this is exactly what I wanted. I turned around, there was someone waiting so I could walk up and say, I want to buy this. They scanned it, I paid and walked out. And within 3 minutes, I bet I had those AirPods connected to my phone and in my ears. It was a beautiful experience. Now, if I wanted to go and browse and learn more, their experience enables that too. So it is designed around the types of people that want to either come browse or quickly come and get what they need. They thought through how that experience should be because they wrapped it around that customer experience. They also made it easy for those people who were actually serving and enabling that experience. So, for example, the concierge or the people who walk around and are asking you questions, I guess, what are those, the Apple geniuses maybe? And they will help you answer questions that you might have. They can also quickly check you out. They have like this, little, like a card reader or a scanner, mobile device that they're able to kind of scan everything and do everything. And boom, it is that simple. If you imagine what that might look like if they were stuck behind a counter and with an old archaic, machine, it may not be as easy and it may not be the same experience that you have. But because Apple thought through what should that customer experience be, and then what should the employee experience be to enable that experience, it helps make a tremendous experience for everyone who's kind of involved. Now, that is what I would call human-centered design, is where they orient the solution around the people you're serving. Design thinking, on the other hand, that is a problem-solving framework. If you were to search up design thinking framework, you will see a whole bunch of information. Typically, it starts with the double diamond, which is a visual of how you think about design and design thinking. And it starts with divergent, convergent, divergent, convergent. And the way that that is kind of brought to life is the first diamond is the problem space. And you begin by discovering, asking questions, trying to understand. It's where you diverge and you just have a lot of questions and you ask a lot of questions and you get a lot of data. And that happens either quantitatively and qualitatively. And it needs to happen in both of those ways. If you just do quant data, your insights will never truly tell you why. They'll just tell you what. If you only look at qual data, you won't truly understand the what patterns. And so putting those together enable you. So if you imagine surveys and analytics give you all the quant data you need, because it's able to measure on the thousands and millions level, but in the qual data, you're getting in the 10s, 30s space, and you're really using that to understand why. And so that's that first part of the diamond, is that discovery phase or empathizing phase. The next phase, or the definition phase, is where you take all of that information and you start to decipher what do the patterns mean. You start to create insights, and you can use methods like infinity mapping or business value canvases, things that take a bunch of information and distill it down into very specific insights. And the purpose of this is to get to defining the root cause of what's happening. If your organization is not selling, and you have a slump in sales, why? Why is that? Some people like to blame the symptoms. I think I've said it in another video. It's very easy to look at the symptoms thinking that's the problem. Well, design thinking enables us to get at the why, and it does that by enabling us to see those themes, and then we start to root analysis to figure out what's happening, whether that's through like a current reality tree, causality statements, things of that sort, but it helps you kind of get to what are the root causes that enable this problem to exist. And so that first diamond is called the problem phase. And at the end of that, what you should have is a very clear understanding of what the problems are. Like any great strategy, you need to understand what that problem is. Now that you have an understanding, you then figure out, well, if the problem is, poor, infrastructure, what do you need to do? What's your North Star? And you start to think about, well, what should the experience be at a high level? You're not designing it out, you're just kind of creating a world. Like in a world, people would have frictionless, intuitive experiences, and you would shape that in the context of what you're trying to solve for. Now, once you have that, you've got the beginnings of that second diamond, or the concept phase. And in this concept phase, it's where you take the outcome and of the definition of what you're trying to solve for, where you're trying to overcome, and the pain points, and you start to ideate what's possible. How might you create the future of this? What might be the right solutions that enable you to kind of get to that space? You will create a whole bunch of ideas, and that's the beauty of it. Design thinking is, purpose-built to do that, and it's because in doing so, you are creating ideas around the people that you are designing for, and it is done in many ways. We use a co-creative method where we actually work with our clients and their customers together to concept together, and we will then concept ideas and we will quickly prototype those ideas. And that is a very critical aspect, is prototyping, because prototyping enables you to get quick feedback even in this beginning phase of like what's working, what's not working, so you can start to refine. But then at some point when you've made the ideas, now it's time to validate those ideas. And this is where we kind of get to the development phase. And so you have that, the first phase is going to be of that second diamond is going to be a design phase or a co-create phase. And then you start to then develop that in that last part of this phase, where you start to refine as to which of these ideas are going to be the ones that have the greatest impact. And the way that we focus on this is by trying to figure out which ones have the greatest desirability, which ones have the highest feasibility, and which ones have the best viability. So you'll hear the term desirability, viability, feasibility. So the DVF framework. And DVF, in conjunction, what you're looking for is you're looking for those ideas that connect all of those three things. It's desirable, it's very feasible, and it's viable. And the way that we like to think about viability is to measure the impact across the journey of a user aligned to the value chain of the organization. That way, you should know that within the journey, certain aspects of the business will be impacted up or down through experience, and you can connect those dots. That helps us better understand if you launch this feature, you will gain $30 million or decrease the cost of ownership by $100 million. And those, there are mathematic ways to kind of bring this out. So our analysts kind of help shape that understanding, so that way when we deliver ideas, we can deliver them confidently, saying, here is the right strategy. This is the direction you need to go. Here's the strategy that you need to use to get there, because the strategies now is going to be focused on how you win. And here's the path. Here are the ideas in the right priority to enable you to reach that end, or that successful end. And that is the design thinking process. Now, what's nice about design thinking is it is human-centered. It is co-creative, and it leverages methods. Methods are literally just specific activities that you can use to get at a very specific output. I talked about affinity mapping. Affinity mapping is a method. Black Mirror is a method. It's a method that you would use if you want to better understand what's the worst case scenario that this could create. We live in a world where responsible and ethical design matters. Designing solutions that have positive outcomes for the people who use, the people who serve, and the people who are impacted by some experience. And that then brings in sustainability and those aspects. So that is what design thinking is. But why is it important? Why should we care about human-centered design or design thinking at all? And I will answer that by telling a story. You're familiar with the idea that there are communities in the world that do not have access to clean water. You can search them up. You could find a lot of organizations that actually help those communities with that problem. There's some companies, they will go in and they will either dig a well, they will bring water in, they will reorient rivers or help people kind of make it easier to access water, with plumbing. And there was one such organization that identified a community where the women were walking back and forth to get water every day, and it was taking them 4 hours to do it. And they thought to themselves, you know what? We make wells. Let's go help this community by digging a well and showing them how to use it. And that's exactly what they did. They went, they created this well, and they instructed the men of the community and the women of the community how to use the well. And now, once they understood that they knew how to use it, they left and just did their thing. A month later, a couple of them come back just to make sure that everything was working, and they realized that the women were not using the well, and they had no idea why. So then they started asking questions. They interviewed the women of the community, they interviewed the men of the community. They actually talked to people outside of the community because what they were hearing just didn't make sense to them. After their research, what they realized is that the reason why the women were not using the well was that the 4 hours a day that they were going to get water and coming back was 4 hours a day that they were building community with themselves. Because for them, value was building community with one another, not the time that it was taking to go get the water. The moral of that story is we all have our wells. Every company has their thing that they believe will solve the problem. And it's very prevalent in consulting. If you go to a consultant, they have the framework that you need that's going to solve your problem. They have the platform that'll come in and make everything better. That is their well. And unless they're actually talking to your people directly, they'll actually never know if their well will solve your problem. Sometimes you don't need a well. Sometimes you need something else. And while we are all guilty of installing our wells, the best thing we can do is ask questions first before we ever install a well. Human-centered design and design thinking enable us to ask those questions first. And by asking those questions first, we understand that maybe a well isn't what you need. Maybe you need a wagon. Maybe you just need a better way to transport the water, but that still enables you to do the thing that gives you value. And that is the purpose of what human-centered design is. In consulting every day, one of my greatest opportunities is to find ways to ask questions because I want to understand. I typically don't have a solution. I have a company that can do many solutions. But the first thing that's the most important is to ask the right question and try to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. By understanding that, then and only then can I bring the right people together that can help you get the solution you're looking for. Be on the lookout for those wells because they're everywhere. Consultancies, your own team, everyone has wells. I am guilty of my wells. The goal is to not buy into that and to reject the wells, to make sure that you fully understand what it is that you're trying to solve for. If you're trying to have a conversation with your consultancy or people within your organization and they are pushing an idea on you and it does not begin with asking questions, that's a well. That's how you identify a well. Because great consultancies, great thinkers begin by asking questions, period. And I've yet to see a situation where defining the strategy before talking to people ever works. Yes, there are a lot of people who will do that. Beginning, the first thing is set the vision, set the strategy, go. And then they question after the fact to validate what they just did. That is the wrong way to begin. In my experience, it's always been more productive to ask questions first. Think about the problem first. I think that's a quote from Albert Einstein, where he talked about if he was only given 1 hour, he would think 60 minutes or 65 minutes, or 55 minutes on the problem. What's the right problem? What's he actually solving? And then a few minutes on actually creating the solution. Most people flip that. So remember that when you're creating solutions, begin with understanding who you're solving for, what are they trying to achieve, and then apply a process. Design thinking is a process. There are many others out there. It's a really good one. It's one I love. But apply a process that begins by asking questions. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope that you were able to kind of get some really good information about what design thinking is, what human-centered design is. I hope that story resonated, and I hope it's something that you share with others. At the end of the day, my goal is to help you figure out how to best orient around your customers and your people. Everyone needs a co-pilot. My name is Pablo Alejo. I'm going to be yours. Take care.